Our old buddy Google is at it again. As of May 1st, 2021, which is now, I don't have a watch, they have introduced 3 new core web vitals that they're going to be using to measure the success of websites. This is going to heavily impact your search engine optimization, so you're going to want to stay tuned and figure out what you need to be paying attention to with your new website. Okay, so the first of the 3 core web vitals, can't say that enough times, I have trouble remembering it, is in terms of loading, and the specific term that they're using is largest contentful paint, right? Paint, yeah. So basically what this core web vital is talking about is when you first land on a website, your first impression, what we call above the fold, everything you can see in that first section without scrolling down, that all has to load in very, very quickly. They don't care as much about everything else down the page. That can take longer to load. They want to know that once somebody lands on that first section of the page, that they're going to be served what they need to be able to see almost immediately. And they did release their kind of criteria for this. So for their largest contentful paint, a good score is less than 2.5 seconds, needs improvement is less than 4 seconds, and poor is more than 4 seconds. So if the first section of your home page takes just over 4 seconds to load, you're going to fail this category, which is 1 out of the 3. So it's really, really important that you do whatever you can to make sure that your site is loading fast at the top. There's lots of tricks to this, like including all of your, I don't want to get too technical, but all of your scripts and code down further in the page. There's lots of ways to do that. You can talk to us or a developer to get that figured out. But make sure that your first section is loading in less than 2.5 seconds, because 1.5 seconds of difference can make the difference between you being on the first page of Google and never being found on the 4th, 5th, 6th, and you don't want that. The second, in terms of interactivity, is labeled as first input delay. So this one is also measured by speed, but instead of how quickly your page loads, it's measuring how fast a button acts once you've touched it. So, on a website, usually what you expect to see most is your call to action button. So you click on a button that says contact. It should start loading in the contact page as soon as you click it. It doesn't necessarily measure the completion of the button press. So if the contact page takes a little bit longer, that shouldn't affect your first, I have to keep looking at what these are called. This shouldn't affect your first input delay. But for example, if you're a website like YouTube and somebody clicks on the play button and it takes 2 seconds to load the video starting to play, it may not seem like a lot of time, but if you're anything like me who's very impatient, I will click on the play button, and if it doesn't start playing, I'll be like, oh, obviously I didn't click it enough, or I missed or something, so I'll click it again. And I've had lots of experiences where before it even starts, I've actually repaused it, so then it plays for a second, then goes back, and then I just have this back and forth. People don't like delays on things. The best example I can give you for this that makes me absolutely crazy is when I'm on my smart TV at home. It's fairly old, maybe they don't do this anymore, but when I'm going through the menus on the smart TV, or even switching my inputs, every time I click the side arrow, I have to wait about 2 seconds and then it moves over. So either, what I've learned is that I have to be very, very patient, which is again difficult for me. So I click the side arrow and I wait, and I click the side arrow and I wait. But when I first got my smart TV, I would click it, the amount of times I knew that it needed to get over there, and it would only register about half of them. So if these are the things that frustrate you, you're not alone. Obviously, it's important enough for Google to crack down on it. So this time the measurement of it is less than 100 milliseconds is a pass, less than 300 milliseconds needs improvement, and more than 300 milliseconds is an absolute fail. So make sure those buttons are working lightning fast. If they're loading up something that's very intensive, maybe rethink how that's working, stuff like that. And the third and last one, which is kind of the most difficult one to explain, is in terms of visual stability, and they call it cumulative layout shift. So the best example I can give to explain how this one works is I find myself scrolling through Facebook and clicking on articles. In this example, I'll say like top 10 cutest dogs. I'm like, okay, I gotta see those dogs. So I click on the article and it brings me to a page that it usually, like almost always, loads really poorly. You'll have a bunch of like white spaces where you know images are going to come in, and you also know half of those are probably going to be ads. You gotta scroll past all the ads. But I've had times where let's say I see a dog photo I really like and I go to click it to enlarge it, and in that moment, you know, it's as if time slows down, and as my thumb nears the screen, the dog image scrolls up and an ad takes its place. That makes me so angry, and I will, if that ever happens to me, I will immediately back out of there and try something else. And if I had more, if I could commit, I would stop clicking on those articles altogether, because I know this is the kind of stuff they pull. But Facebook knows me better than I know myself, so they know if they keep showing me these articles, I'm going to keep clicking them. So hopefully these sorts of changes with Google will make it so that that kind of article is just not going to fly. You should never click somewhere and then have it move. Like, just once you get to a site, once stuff loads in, it should just stay where it's supposed to go. If it's moving around, that's not good, and Google is going to punish you for it. Now, in terms of measurement for cumulative layout shift, I don't know if maybe by the time this video comes out there will be more detailed explanations given. They've got 3 measurements. They say less than 0.1 is good, less than 0.25 needs improvement, and more than 0.25 is poor. But it doesn't really explain in their site what that actually means. At first I thought maybe it was like a score out of like 100%, so 0.25 would mean that like 25% of your page is moving. But nobody seems to have that answer yet. So I think it's just its own kind of measurement that Google will use to measure these things. So it might be the hardest one to figure out if you're going to pass or fail, but just these days you shouldn't really have to build a website that has layout shift. All of the ones that we've created here don't have that problem. There's really no need for it. If an image is going to be here, even if it doesn't load in immediately, you should still have something in its place until it gets there. Like, you shouldn't have the text and the image comes in after and then the text gets just stop all of that. So that is all I have for today. Google controls the internet and therefore all of our lives, especially if you're in business and you're trying to get by. So let us be good followers of Google and make these sorts of changes so that we don't end up buried in their pages. At the end of the day, I always say this over and over again, Google wants to make sure that Google looks good. So if they're sending your customers to your website and you are creating these frustrating situations, this is why they're going to punish you for it, because they don't want people to get frustrated like I do when I click on those stupid ads and then go and use like Bing or something, which I don't think I would ever do. So yeah. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know if you have any questions about that. Like, comment, and subscribe. Tell me how you feel about these new core metrics, and if there's anything else you think Google should start tracking that really makes you mad on websites. And otherwise, I will see you in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.